Story 1. Update: my wife is not the woman that I used to know. She let the fame get her. Original post. I know I won't probably get anything meaningful from Reddit, but at this stage of life I don't have a single soul to talk to. I met my wife when I was 15 in high school. She was 17. That latter part of my teenage years was probably the hardest of my life, since in a half a year I lost my mother. I never knew my dad, so she was the only thing that I could consider family. At that time me and my wife were only friends, but she was there for me and grieved with me. I think I started developing feelings for her during that time. We started dating when I was 17 and we got married 7 years later. For context, my wife was very frugal and unmaterialistic. She never cared about clothes, makeup, brands, cars, etc. Always spending money on thrift shops or during sales on whatever she liked. I remember trying to impress her with my 370Z just for her to react with, "What car is this? A Corolla?" So yeah, I think you get the type. But that's what I liked about her the most. And also, she was the most caring person I ever knew. In our family, she's the successful one, always working in big corporations. Regarding myself, I always worked as a community first responder for my local hospital. The salary wasn't high, but I loved my job helping people as I could. Fast forward 2 years ago, she received an offer from an important company for an executive position offering 4 years, yes, 4 times her salary, and let me tell you, her salary wasn't bad by any means, but we would have to move to a different city. At first I was doubtful since that would mean me losing my job and not being sure if I could have contributed financially to her family for an indefinite period of time. But she said that she could have sustained the family effortlessly with this new job, and for that time I could have looked after the house and groceries till I could have found a new job. Since she was so enthusiastic, I accepted. I was happy to support my wife's career. Well, the best way that I can put it is that my wife underwent a crazy transformation from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of thing. You know what I mean. She started caring more and more about luxury brands, jewels, cars, etc. I don't think you can quite imagine my disbelief seeing her coming home with a Versace bag after seeing her for years wearing $10 coats from our local thrift shop. She also started hanging out with her new female co-workers a lot. My wife isn't very extroverted or very social, so that was quite the shock. But I was very happy for her. I thought that she finally found her dimension after years of struggling. But that happiness started fading after she started coming home later every day and later until it was a miracle to be able to talk to her for 10 minutes a day. I thought I was very busy with work since, well, being an executive means lots of work. So she started posting lots of photos of her with her coworkers drinking, going shopping and stuff. The fun part is, she never finds time to reply to my text, but she always has a minute to post photos, and when she replies, she says that she's working. She also literally stops saying things to me altogether. Have you ever experienced your wife or husband going to work with an Audi A3 and then coming back with a Porsche Macan GTS? Well, I did, and let me tell you, it's no fun. I confronted her on if it was a business-issued car, which it isn't, then on why she spent so much money on a car when she didn't even care, not even a little, about cars. Her passive-aggressive response was that it's her money and that she is entitled to do as she pleases. Or if you experienced not seeing your wife or husband coming back home for a night and not replying to text just to receive a call the following afternoon saying that she forgot telling me that she left for a business trip. Well, I hope you haven't. But the worst thing is that she invited me for lunch with her co-workers. I was very happy because it was the first time that we were doing something together in months, and I thought that what I've experienced before was only a phase and that it was all ended. My wife left first because she had work to do, so I dressed up nicely and left 2 hours after to the scheduled restaurant. For context, I sold my 370Z because I no longer needed a sports car anymore. So my daily driver is a very frugal Renault Clio. I like it. And since I didn't need it that much, I don't have reasons to upgrade to a pricier model or brand. Well, I get to the restaurant, park my car in front, get inside just to see my wife staring at me like horror-stricken. She gets up from the table and takes me outside of the restaurant. Then proceeds to literally insult me for parking my Clio in front of the restaurant and in front of her table, saying that I embarrassed her and that I should have parked it somewhere hidden. I was completely at a loss for words. I asked her why, and she said that it was a cheap non-luxury car, not representative of her lifestyle. She then gets back inside the restaurant, warning me not to embarrass her like this again. I attended the rest of the lunch in shock. That day I realized that the girl that I had at my side wasn't my wife. It wasn't the girl that I married anymore. My wife is now out of the house celebrating a great year for the company, and I'm here at home writing this with the divorce papers in front of me. I don't think I can handle this situation anymore. I tried lots and lots of times to talk to her, to tell her how I feel, to tell her that she's changed, that she's not the same woman that I knew, that she just doesn't listen. She always says that she has no more time and that she needs to work, or she tries to minimize the situation, saying that it's not true and that she never changed. She wanted kids, now she doesn't want them anymore, saying that they would rob her time from her career. She wanted to travel, now she doesn't want to do it for the same reason. Is she really the same woman I married? But still, I can't bring myself to talk about divorce with her. Most likely because I hope that somewhere hidden inside of her, there's still the woman that I loved and still love, even if this doesn't seem like the case. Now for the comments before reading the update. Just want to say I'm sorry, man. I can only imagine how painful it is to watch someone you love slowly change into someone completely different. She's made it perfectly clear that you aren't a priority. You aren't even someone she respects. Money blinds some folks. You're making the right choice. You deserve to be with someone who loves and cares for you and who wants to build a life with you. This woman does none of these things anymore. Go through with the divorce and return to your town that you felt the love from the townspeople and move on with your life. She clearly doesn't want you in her life. But before you hand her the papers, hire a pie to find out if she's cheating or not. If she is, well, you can change the divorce papers to include compensation from her and the man she's cheating with, to whatever price you want to get out of it, and then live the life that you're more relaxed in. I think those late nights and those sudden business trips are her cheating on you. You deserve a woman who loves you and won't tell you to not park your old beat-up car in front of the restaurant, as you're embarrassing me. I have stated my husband loves his old car, and I've tried to get him to sell it and get a new one, but he loves the old thing to my friends and state I have to look classy at home. We're down to earth, wearing jeans and t-shirts. She will end up the loser in this, and she will lose a good man who loves her, but she's chasing him away. Op says, this is what I'm most afraid of. I really hope she isn't. I'm still trying to process everything, but if worse comes to worse, going to go back to my hometown is probably the plan. Thank you for the comment. Well, Op, take his advice and hire a pie. Also, make sure if you divorce her, you take half of her assets. I don't know if you live in the United States or not. Don't show her this post like people are saying here. Now for the update. First of all, I want to thank everyone who reached out to me in the comments or in the DMs. I really appreciate it, and it helped me retaining my composure and mental clarity. I'm sorry if I couldn't reply to you all, but I tried to read everything, and I really appreciate you all. Well, after that business party, my wife didn't come back home. I tried contacting her since I was very worried, but she didn't pick up the phone, not even once. She came back home in the morning exactly when I was about to leave for her workplace to ask about her. I asked her what happened, and she said that she stayed at this female co-worker's house since she drank a lot, and she was in no shape or condition to drive. Fair enough. I told her that she could have sent me a text to warn me and that I would have gone to go get her. Her response was, with what? The Clio? I stood there in silence, and she later said that she forgot about warning me. I asked how she was feeling, only to be answered in monosyllables. We minded our own business for a while. Then she comes to me, and she says that she has something to discuss about. I tell her that I have something to discuss with her too, and well, would you look at that, she asked for a divorce. I wasn't expecting that at all. I asked her why, and her reply was that after talking to her friends, she understood that I wasn't fit to be her husband, and that we have different values and different lifestyles, and that she deserves a man of similar worth compared to her. She was just waiting for the right time for it to be brought up, and after the party she made up her mind. I'm going to be completely honest, that was a low blow. But I just smiled at her. I tried talking to her, proposing to separate for a while to see how things go. I even proposed couples therapy like someone suggested, but she was dead set on it. So I calmly told her everything I needed to say, from the fact that I was thinking about divorce to the fact that I felt like she changed, concluding saying that I'm sure she will find an awesome man, since I know her worth having been her husband for more than 9 years, but that I know what I'm worth too. We decided to separate for the moment, and we will arrange the divorce later on. Since she has no time now, but we have a verbal agreement on some things. I decided to go back to my hometown to relax and to decide what's next for me. I should be able to regain my previous position in the hospital, but it's all to see. Also, one of my friends offered to host me until I found housing. I'm really grateful to him. But well, I understood that my wife couldn't care less about me when the lengthiest discussion we had concerned who was taking the dog. For context, we got him a month after moving since she always wanted one, and to keep me some company. But in 2 years she probably spent the equivalent of 2 hours with him. I always took care of him and well, he's been more of a loyal companion in the last 2 years. So she literally made a fuss about the fact that I couldn't take the dog with me for maybe a half an hour or so. I told her that I didn't care at all. I was taking him with me since she doesn't have time to take care of him. And it was very strange for her to say those things when she didn't care not even a bit about him for 2 years. So I packed the necessary things, and before leaving, I asked her if she was cheating on me, and she denied. And I will trust her on that. I read a lot of people in the previous post talking about hiring a pie, but I'm not going to do that. I trust what she said, and even if it wasn't the truth, I honestly don't want to hear nothing about it. It would only make me feel worse. I feel calm, but inside I feel like I've lost an important piece of myself. The things that she said didn't hurt me initially, however, the more that I think about them, the more heartbroken I feel. But I'm trying to focus on nicer thoughts, like meeting one of my old friends which I haven't seen in a long time. I'm still trying to process everything, it all happened so fast. Though I must say that seeing my dog so happy inside the Clio brightened up my mood a lot. He loves car rides. Even if things went down this road, I still wish her all the best. I could never forget what she did back then for me and in general in those 16 years spent together as a couple. I may do another update in the future about how things went, but for now, goodbye. I'll take some time to focus on myself and the upcoming divorce. Again, thanks to everyone. Take care. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my aunt I want nothing to do with my sister? Plus update. Original post. On a throwaway, since my family knows and stalks my social media, I, 26 female, have been no contact with my sister Cheryl, 24 female, and mother, 57 female, since I turned 18. Our parents divorced when I was 14, when my mom's constant favoritism and enabling of Cheryl's abuse of me would not stop. My mom excused it as every parent has their favorite. But Cheryl took delight in stealing from me, destroying my things and using me as a physical and emotional punching bag. My dad, after years of trying to force family counseling, mental health evaluations, family interventions, but my mom kept enabling and at times felt like encouraging Cheryl. My dad treated divorce as a last-ditch effort to try and save what was left of my childhood. My mom demanded full custody of Cheryl in exchange for giving my dad 80-20 of me. It was a rough battle, and he really did try to limit my custody time with my mom. At 16, I was able to stay with my dad full-time and only see mom and Cheryl occasionally at school. I suspect my mom wanted 80-20 of me to keep me around as Cheryl's punching bag. But Cheryl's power over me lessened the instant I had the power to just walk away. It's funny, Cheryl seemed obsessed with taking from me. New phone taken. New tablet taken. Once we were both in high school, I lived with my dad full-time. She couldn't blatantly steal from me anymore. Didn't stop her from trying. I had one boyfriend in high school who she tried to seduce but failed. He told me immediately and was weirded out by it. When I went to college, she stalked me and found out if I was dating anyone. I had 2 boyfriends in college and she tried the same thing. Both times they told me about Cheryl's attempts and shot her down. This part might need some explanation. Cheryl is conventionally attractive, like from across the room, but since she was a teenager, she has a hygiene issue. She showers once every 2 weeks and uses a combination of scented hand lotion and perfume that combines with her beau into a new mega stench versus covering up. My last college boyfriend remarked that when she put her hand on his shoulder, he was immediately grossed out by her nails. When I was in college, Cheryl also attempted to get a credit card in my name, but I had a lock on my credit, courtesy of my father, who feared my mom would try this first. So needless to say, I'm not impressed with my sister or my mom. Last night, I got a weird call from my Aunt Janice, 64, female, my mom's sister. I haven't talked to this woman in nearly a decade, and suddenly she's calling me. She asked me what I heard. I heard nothing, so I was confused. She instantly was like, "Good, Cheryl needs a place to stay. Your mom kicked her out." I was immediately like, "Excuse me, no." Janice then kept begging me to let Cheryl stay at my place, at least for a few days for my mom to cool down. I told Janice that I haven't talked to Cheryl, my mom, or her in years, that you are all strangers to me, and last time we all talked, you aren't my favorite people. Janice then kept saying, "Family helps family, and it's just for a few days, it'll be fine." I finally blocked the number. But I did get a confused call from my cousins, confused that I cut my sister and mom off. As if it happened recently and not almost a decade ago. The cousins from my mom's side rarely talked to me, so they were just as confused as I was and wanted clarification. I'm debating on telling them the details, but I'm thinking of just telling them it's not their business. But I can't help but think I should have handled the call with my aunt better. Am I the a-hole for how I told my aunt that I want nothing to do with my mom and sister? Now for the updates. Update 1. Talked to 2 of my cousins over the phone and explained that I've been no contact with my mom and sister since I was 18. Still saw them both a handful of times, but never interacted with them directly. I suggested, gave Cliff Note versions of what happened with my sister and mom that made me want to cut them off. One cousin said figures and the other said makes sense. Aunt sent a message via Facebook Messenger of I had no idea it was that bad. She did, and that she will leave me alone about it from now on. Overall felt good starting out my Friday until noon today. My husband and I work from home, and we were both surprised when a Ring doorbell said that we had someone buzzing the front door. Checked the camera and yep, it's my sister Cheryl with 2 suitcases. Went to the door and kept the screen door closed and locked, but opened the front door. I could still smell her weird beau through the screen door, so her hygiene has not improved since I last knew her. Cheryl tried to go, "Hey sis," all bubbly and like half my childhood didn't happen. I asked her what she wanted. She said her and mom got into a fight, wouldn't say what the fight was about, and asked to stay with me. I said absolutely not, and she started crying. Then she said that she didn't want to tell me this, that her and my husband had been having a 6-month-long affair, and that she couldn't hold it in anymore, and that blood sticks with blood. It was that moment that my husband rounded the corner and said, "Say what?" My sister looked confused and asked who the hell the man behind me was, and I almost laughed because I realized what happened. Since Thanksgiving onward, my husband grew a small beard for the first time. Most of his pics on social were him cleanly shaven, so of course Cheryl would have no idea what he looked like with a beard. I said, "That's my husband," and she tried to recover. It was sad and pathetic. I simply said bye Cheryl and closed the door. 10 minutes of her continually buzzing the ring and knocking, pleading, and she finally left. Called both cousins and asked what the hell this is all about and why did my mom kick Cheryl, her favorite child, out. One cousin only knew bare bones, but the other knew the details. When my parents first divorced, there was a guy my mom brought in almost immediately who I call Scumbag Tom. Him showing up and the start of the divorce felt highly suspect, but he was always a weird guy that I never liked being around. I did ask my dad if he thought Mom cheated on him with Tom, and he said Tom was the least of his worries and the lowest of his priorities when it came to the divorce. Long story short, Cheryl slept with Tom, Mom found out, kicked Cheryl out, and Tom stayed swearing Cheryl tricked him somehow. Just Cheryl staying super classy, and Mom found the one thing she wouldn't tolerate Cheryl doing. Goodness, I'm glad I've cut these people out of my life. Update 2. Last 12 hours had been a roller coaster. I talked to my dad again today, had him visit, and told him what Cheryl had done, and Dad sat down on the couch and started laughing and crying and shaking his head. I was really worried because I was afraid. He was having a medical issue. He finally caught his breath and told me the family secret. During the divorce, my mom was apparently extremely vicious and even attempted to keep me full-time. I wasn't told this. Mom went as far as to even claim I was not my dad's child, and she knew who my father was and would use this to get full custody. Dad was undeterred. Even if I wasn't his child, he'd raised me, and he wasn't going to leave me in hell because of that. Paternity tests were ordered for both me and Cheryl, and I was Dad's child. Cheryl was not. Cheryl, however, did match the person my mom brought to be sampled. Scumbag Tom. Dad was still going between chuckling and sobbing for a few minutes while telling me and my husband this. Then there was silence, which I felt like it went on forever. I finally asked if Scumbag Tom knew. Dad just nodded. I asked him how he felt about Cheryl. He said you can't just turn off being someone's dad, no matter how shtty they turn out. I had my husband take my dad to the guest room after he said he needed to lay down for a moment. Around noon, my phone started ringing. It was an unknown number, but I figured it was Cheryl. I picked up, and yep, it was Cheryl. She was again begging for any sort of help, stay with me, or money for a hotel, anything. I was tired, and I do admit, I wanted to hurt her, so I told her who Scumbag Tom was to her. She was quiet, then begged me not to tell her I was lying. I just hung up. I told my husband and father what I did, and my dad just started that weird sobbing chuckle again. My husband, however, said that we should probably call my aunt and let her know what I just told Cheryl in case Cheryl becomes unstable, and at least someone would be alert for it. I do feel bad that I dropped this on Cheryl as a way specifically to hurt her. I tried to justify this isn't even a tenth of the hurt that she's given me, but hurting someone doesn't feel good the longer I sit with it. Update 3. Posting here in my profile for now. I don't know where this would belong, honestly. At everyone's advice, I did call my 2 cousins, and we had a real conversation. Whoever said my mom and sister controlled the narrative with that side of the family was right. According to my cousins, my dad was painted as a low-life cheater, and I was a dropout drug addict that went from man to man. Literally only had 4 boyfriends my entire life. So when my sister was kicked out, my aunt suggested she stay at my place. The cousins were confused. Wasn't I a druggie that couch surfed and was unemployed? And apparently came up with a story that I speed ran adulthood and 6 months of getting clean, an online degree, a job, home, and husband. Now both cousins never really liked my mom or sister. They just figured that if trash called me trash, I must have been super trash. Super trash. I did tell them the truth about Cheryl and Scumbag Tom, and both were disgusted with everyone involved. They made sure that the family had been sufficiently warned. Now the next part apparently happened late last night, and I'm getting this secondhand. Cheryl apparently stopped back at Mom's, and the 3 of them got into a big argument. Things were broken and thrown against the wall, and the cops were called. Cops showed up. Mom tried to get Cheryl kicked out, but apparently Cheryl's legal address is Mom's house, so the cops told her she can't be kicked out. Same with Scumbag Tom's legal address, so as long as no one is actually assaulted, the cops didn't care. I'm now making it a habit of putting all calls from unfamiliar numbers straight to voicemail. Got 3 from new numbers last night. 2 was from Mom, first her crying and pleading for her to apologize to me and begging me to understand. Second was her screaming and cursing to the point of devolving into noise. The 3rd call was Scumbag Tom. Started with him going, "Hey kiddo, deleted that one before it finished. Going to take the Ring doorbell footage, the texts and info from my cousins and get some legal orders in place now. It's all just trash, trash, trash. Update 4. I mentioned on my profile that I cleared up the narrative about me to my cousin. Mother and sister spun a tale that was a hot mess, couldn't keep a job, slept around, did drugs, couch surfed. When my sister was kicked out, my aunt decided to suggest Cheryl stay with me, which made my cousins confused. Wasn't I a hot mess? Aunt Vin made up a story that I got my life together, got clean, a degree, career, house, and husband in 6 months worth of time. Cousins were skeptical, but they thought that since my mom and sister were trash, if they called me trash, I must have been super trash, so they always kept a distance away. That's since been cleared up. For the most part, the cousins wanted to stay away from the epicenter of drama bombs. The next part I heard in part from 2 of my cousins. Cheryl decided to head back home, and her mom got into a big argument, and scumbag Tom decided to jump in. Cops were called, everyone's addresses were verified, and the cops' attitude was since no one was assaulted, no one is allowed to kick anyone out, and left. I've been getting calls from all family members now. Mom, Cheryl, and scumbag Tom go straight to voicemail, and I'm collecting as much of it as possible and have been sending it to the police. My husband suggested we retain a lawyer to better handle this, which we will be doing in the next couple of days. Aunt is acting very apologetic and keeps claiming she didn't know the abuse was as intense as it was and thought the problems I had with Cheryl was stupid sibling stuff. But she said we shouldn't cut Mom and Cheryl out of our lives just yet. No one else on Mom's side of the family is willing to lend any help or support except for Aunt. I am, however, getting more calls from cousins, second cousins, and other members of Mom's family wanting to reconnect now that they know the truth. Sort of not sure if I should even dedicate any time to them. They didn't lend my father or I any support during the divorce or afterwards. Part of me understands that it's because my mom and sister spun a hell of a narrative, but at least according to my cousins, her side of the family thought Mom and Cheryl were trash anyway, but still associated with them. I might reconnect with my aunt's kids, the 2 cousins, since they approached me when this whole mess started with confusion and asked for clarification, not outright trying to beat me into accepting my sister into my home.